When you go to a business or an apartment complex or a hotel or some sort of commercial location like that, the owner of that property has a responsibility to make sure that that property is safe. And so if you get injured while you're on that property, you have a claim against them. We've represented the families of individuals who have unfortunately been killed at apartment complexes. And obviously the individual who perpetrated the murder is responsible, but the apartment complex where the murder occurred has a responsibility to provide security. And what we show is that if they had appropriate security in place, that our client never would have been murdered. When we handle a case against an apartment complex where an individual has been injured or perhaps murdered, one of the things that we look at is the history of what's happened at that apartment complex. Because unfortunately, on a number of occasions, we've seen apartment complexes that have had hundreds of 911 calls that have originated from their property, and they've refused to take any steps to provide security. Their failure to provide security and to respond to the crime that's going on their property is why they end up being responsible for our client's injury or death. We got hired by a father. His daughter was in college and had moved up to Atlanta. And she had gotten invited to a party, and she was new to town and didn't realize what was the real situation with this party. And it was at an apartment complex in a very bad part of town. And so she got to the party, and what we were able to show is that the apartment complex had knowingly rented this apartment to some really, really bad people. She got murdered at that party. We ended up suing the apartment complex because they rented this apartment to these folks knowing that they were convicted felons and knowing that they had violent history. We were ultimately able to get millions of dollars for that father. At the Claiborne firm, we litigate the cases that matter most.